Hello and welcome back to the fourth part in my restoration of a encore guitar. In today's video we're gonna start off by sanding the lacquer on the body. The camera just moved down on its own. I need to get a new tripod. The body is sort of glossy right now, but it has a little bit of orange peel and some unevenness in the finish. So we're gonna level it with some sandpaper. I have a sanding block here, and I have some 12,000 grit sandpaper right here. And I'm just gonna wrap the paper around the block like this. And I'm gonna put some water on the body and I'm gonna start sanding. Now, the reason why I'm starting at 1200 and I'm not starting at 600 and moving up to 1200, which is what I would usually do, is because I have a very thin paint job on this. The clear coat is really thin on this one. It's not the way I would normally do things. And in the end of the video, we're gonna talk a little bit on why I've chosen to do things that way. And I'm also gonna explain this mark up here in the finish, because there are some small imperfections. And you might have seen those imperfections in other videos and thought, why didn't he just, put something there under the lacquer to fix them? And I'm gonna explain why later in the video. So for now, I'm just gonna put some water on the body and I'm gonna start sanding. And then we'll jump to the next part, which is gonna be putting on the neck. And after that, all the other parts. Okay, so the thing that you have to think about when you're sanding this is to keep an eye on the finish and make sure that when it turns dull and you don't have any dots of gloss, you stop. We don't have to go any further than that. So I'm just going to put a bit of water on. This is lukewarm water and it has a couple of drops of soap in it, and I'm just going to start sanding. And the water will make the paper sort of almost stick to the body, so we'll get a really nice, almost clamped down feeling as we sand. And I'm just going to go in random circles like this. I don't know if you can see the high spots, but they're basically the spots that aren't flat and dull, but that still looks a little bit shiny. You move the body basically like this, and if you see any high spots, you know you have to keep on sanding. So, I'm not really done yet. Okay, so now we're gonna polish the body, so we're just gonna smear some of this polish compound onto the body. And it's just the same thing that I used on the neck. So I'm just gonna smear it out a little bit like this. It doesn't have to be that even, because we're gonna move it around. And then we're gonna take our wire wheel, and I promise that the next guitar we build, I'm gonna replace this before then. Okay? I'm just gonna move this around here now. And I don't know if you can see it, but right there, you can see how right there it's a little bit glossy. Or at least hopefully you can. Okay, so here's the body now, and I have sanded it and I've polished it. And now the first thing we're gonna do is attach the neck. And then we can start putting the other parts on one by one. Okay? Putting in the claw, and I'm going to use shorter screws. And if you want to know why I'm putting in 5, it's because it will cover up the mistakes of the holes being drilled through. I didn't feel like filling them up, especially since I don't really know how the screws are gonna behave. And I also think this might actually look kinda cool. I don't have a guitar with 5 springs. So yeah, let's try that out on this guitar, and maybe we'll change it later. Who knows? Okay, so here we have one of those fiddly things that we have to do in order to put the guitar together. And it is that we need to put the ground wire from the claw onto one of the pots. I'm gonna try to see if I can show you, but it might be a little bit difficult. Now, it doesn't really matter where you put the pots, as long as everything goes together neatly. And then we'll just take these 2 wires here, a blue one and a black one, and we'll just feed them through the hole here that we just drilled, and we'll grab them on the other side here. Okay, so the wires are connected, and now I'm just hold it in place. And I'm just gonna take my drill and I'm just gonna drill a tiny little hole and put in a screw. And then screw it in to the body so that the output jack is held in place. Something like that. And then just one over here on the opposite side. Okay, so when it comes to putting the pickguard on, we have to be a little bit more careful than the output jack here. And there are tools that you're supposed to use that I didn't use here, but it doesn't really matter that much. At least I don't think it does. Here's an awl, so I'm gonna try to center up the screw hole here and push it in. And it leaves a little mark that will guide my drill. Now the reason why it's more important on the pickguard is because the pickguard can be screwed in place a little bit crooked or a little bit weird, and it will line up weirdly. And once you've put down your first screws that are holding the pickguard in place, it's sort of too late to fix it. So you're gonna have to, you know, take them out and plug the hole and re-drill it. So yeah, that would be annoying. So here is the guitar, and it's all put together, and it looks good. And so, first off, we're gonna just play it a little bit and see what it sounds like. So here's a G chord. Good. Now let's move on to the next thing. No, I'm kidding. Sorry. Yeah, so this is how the guitar looks right now, and there are a couple of things that we need to talk about before we end the video. And the first thing is, you can probably see, and you've probably seen, these little marks that are somewhere around here. The guitar has a couple of imperfections that I couldn't get rid of. And one of the reasons why I couldn't get rid of them is because I would have had to put some sort of filler underneath before I painted the guitar. Now when I sanded the guitar, and we're starting to get into the reason why there is information about the guitar build that I didn't tell you until now. When I sanded the guitar, after I had removed the old lacquer, I sanded the grain filler that was under and removed as much as I could without getting to the bare wood. Because if I had gotten to the bare wood, I would have had to put on new sealer to protect the finish so it didn't sink into the wood. So I removed as much as I could, and then I started painting the guitar. Now, there is something special about the paint, and a reason why I couldn't fill these marks in with something else, with some sort of putty or something that would fix all the little small mistakes. Fender used to offer custom paint jobs on guitars back in like the 60s or something, and the way they would do it is that they would have a chart of paint and you could decide from that which color you wanted, and then you order your guitar and they'd paint it in that color. Now, if they didn't have a body that was already in that color, they would either paint a new body or they would take a body they already had that had already been painted and just spray paint over it. Now that means that if you have an old guitar now, because you know it's the years later, sometimes you can see the relicking happening and the paint the body originally had before Fender painted over it. You can see that paint come through where the wear has gone through the body. Now I thought that was really interesting, and if you remember, I made a video not too long ago where I talked about an experiment I had. I showed you one of my guitars and how I never clear coated it and let the paint be worn off by me playing. And this is a similar experiment. This guitar has a clear coat, but I've done everything I can to make it as thin as possible, and I've sanded away a lot of the clear coat too. And the thing is, underneath this yellow paint there is another color, but that's not all, because underneath that color there is another color, but that's not all, because under that one there is another color, and that is also not all, because underneath that one there is another color. So this is what's gonna happen with this guitar. You let me know in the comments below how often you want an update on this guitar. Once a month, once a year, you know, and we'll just see what happens. And I'm not gonna relic this guitar or do anything weird to it. I'm just gonna treat it like any other guitar I have, which means that it's probably gonna be smashed to pieces by tomorrow because I can't keep track of anything. No, but seriously, it's gonna get relic most likely because it's super thin and I am gonna play it. I'm not gonna play it more than any of my other guitars. I'm gonna have the same sort of philosophy I have to all my guitars, which is I play it when I feel like it and when I want to use it. If there is a song that I feel like, ooh, that guitar will work on it, I will use it on it. And if I feel like, ooh, a friend wants me to come over and play guitar and I feel like using this guitar, that's when I'm going to use it. So it's not going to be used like, ooh, I'm never going to play any other guitar, I'm just going to play this guitar and we'll see how fast it relics, because that would be weird too. I'm just going to use it like any other of my guitars. And the secret of the different colors of paint will slowly come through, or maybe quickly, I don't know. Maybe I'll drop something on it and it will get a ding that goes through all the layers. We don't know what will happen. I'm also going to do some upgrades to it because there are some parts that I'm not really happy about. I'm, for example, not very happy with these tuners that the guitar came with. I think they're okay for a new beginner guitarist guitar, but they're not good enough for what I want out of a guitar, and they're not better than what you get on like the lowest entry level of a Harley Benton. Even upgrading the guitar to having those tuners would be an improvement. So that's gonna happen, and some other things. But anyway, for now, that's it when it comes to this guitar. I hope you've enjoyed the videos. Let me know in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching. Please like the video, and if you're not subscribed, I would appreciate it if you subscribed. Until next time, stay awesome and cool, and you go and restore a guitar, because there is always a guitar in need of repairing and love. And you don't necessarily need to buy a new guitar. Every time you buy a guitar, you could sometimes find something weird that someone has ruined, and you can make it into something new and special and awesome. That is all yours.